In this video, I'm going to talk about my experience after 1 month of owning my first e-bike. I'm going to talk about something at the end of the video that actually really surprised me and I was not expecting. So let me start off with the positives. And that is, I got the bike for 2 reasons. One is to go fast on my local trails and really work on my bike handling skills. So when I get up to the mountains, I am more familiar with riding a bike at speed. Not that I haven't ridden a bike at speed in the mountains a lot, but you know, just to be able to keep those skills up. Also to be a shuttle bike. Now I have not taken it to the mountains yet, so I have not used it as my shuttle bike as of yet. So in this video, we're talking about how it's done on my local cross-country trails. And I'll say that it was pretty much as expected, and that is being able to really hit corners and just the entire trail system at speed. And I have really had a blast. Like, I've really had a blast. Now, I will say that the novelty is wearing off a little bit. I am holding to what I said when I first talked about having an e-bike in my possession as a bike that I've bought with my own money. And I said I was only going to ride it once a week, and I'm basically doing that. So what I do is I make sure I ride my analog acoustic mountain bike at least once a week. So I also ride gravel. I ride 4 or 5 days a week. So I have to have ridden my regular mountain bike at least once, maybe twice before I would ride the e-bike. That being said, there's been a few rides where I was kind of due to ride the e-bike and I chose the analog bike. And my analog bike is a transition spur. So, I mean, it's one of the funnest bikes I've ever ridden. So, of course, I'm going to choose that sometimes. But the good thing about the e-bike, and this is as I expected and it's true, and those days where you've kind of put in some hard rides during the week and you want to take it easy, but you still want to go fast, man, that's where the e-bike is great. Now, some people have said that you can still get a workout on the e-bike. I think that's true, but I haven't tried because when I get out to the trails on this thing, I put it in the top mode. So this is a specialized turbo levo, and I put it in turbo. You know, I'll start in eco mode, and I'll say, I'm just gonna ride in eco mode for a while, and then like that lasts for 30 seconds. I'll put it on trail mode, that lasts for 30 seconds, and I'm in turbo. Just because I've already ridden hard during the week, and I wanna just go fast. And so I put in turbo, and like I looked at my average watts after just pinning it for an hour and a half, and it was like 59 watts, which that's super low. So a lot lower than I would have on a regular mountain bike. Now that being said, I can see how when you put it in eco mode or even trail mode that you do get a workout. Like especially if you ride in the mountains and you're doing long climbs. If you want to get a workout on an e-bike, you really can. Eco mode kind of just compensates for the weight of the bike. Now, I think it is faster than riding just a regular bike up a hill, but it does compensate for the weight plus a little bit. One thing that was really annoying with this bike, and I actually mentioned it when I had an e-bike demo many years ago, and it's so frustrating that when you try to clean the chain, when you spin the pedals backwards, nothing happens. And so I know you can put an Allen wrench in the little chainring bolt and spin it that way, but I've got my fingers caught, and so really you have to flip the bike upside down and pedal forward, not backwards. It's so frustrating to just lean the bike up against something and try to clean the chain. It's just the nature of this type of e-bike. So like I said, that bike flip thing that I reviewed a little while ago, man, that thing is great for an e-bike because I don't want to hoist this. I have not put this thing in the bike stand yet. My bike stand is a park tool, so it's really durable, really steady, but man, I just haven't done it yet. So I can't tell you what that's like, but yeah, cleaning the chain is really, really annoying. One thing that kind of surprised me a little bit, and this is what I was talking about earlier, but the thing that really surprised me is kind of a negative, but a positive thing is that the bike does not feel like a 50-pound bike on the trail. And part of that is due because this is a mullet bike, right? So it's got a 27.5-inch wheel in the back, and that really helps the agility of the bike. And it just doesn't feel like a heavy bike when I'm at speed on the trail. Now when I'm putting it on the bike rack, yeah, it feels like a 50-pound bike, but at speed, it doesn't feel like a 50-pound bike. Now, what is really unique about an e-bike is how incredibly planted this bike feels on the trail. Like nothing unsettles it. It's kind of crazy. Like that kind of gets into the negative thing that surprised me that I'll talk about in a minute. But this thing has 2.6 tires, and it's you know, the center of gravity is so low, like the motor's low, and it just feels like it's just glued to the trail. It's a really unique feeling, and I'm really looking forward to downhilling with this thing. All right, I'm going to jump in here for this video while I'm out riding the e-bike today. And when I say this thing feels planted, it's literally like no other bike that I've ridden. I can hit corners with more confidence and more speed than any other bike that I've ridden. So not only can I go like really fast on cross-country trails, I can also hit corners faster, which ups the fun factor. So I just wanted to jump in here and just throw this in the middle of the video again, just while I'm out on location riding the bike. When I go up to the mountains, I will be switching back and forth between my analog bike. In fact, I've got a really big trip. I'm testing a really cool bike that's going to be in my fleet, and I can't really say what it is yet because it's still under embargo. So I'm getting up to Pisgah and doing some testing with that bike. I'm going to bring this bike. Now, I cannot ride this bike in Pisgah because they don't allow e-bikes, and I'm not going to be a hypocrite and go back on what I said in another video. So, but I am going up to Virginia probably, and there's some trails where I can ride this bike. So going back to what I was saying is how planted the e-bike feels on the trail. It's kind of odd feeling. It's different than any other mountain bike that I've ridden, and like I said, man, and with the 2.6 tires, man, you can just rail stuff. And now listen, one thing that I'll say is this is what I've really noticed, you do have to be careful that you don't damage the trail. You can damage trails so much easier with an e-bike, and you really have to be responsible and not go flying into a corner and lock up the brakes, because not only are you hitting stuff at speed, hitting corners faster, but you've got so much weight and tires that are 2.6 tires, and you can just you could damage a trail if you're not responsible. So let me get into the thing that really surprised me that was a negative about the e-bike. And this is why I actually haven't ridden it as much on my local trails. I'm probably riding the e-bike like once every other week at this point. But the thing that really surprised me is when I got back on my regular mountain bike, my Transition Spur, that thing felt so twitchy and so sketchy. And I didn't like that because I love riding my regular mountain bike a lot. In fact, one ride, I hit a route that on a downhill that it seemed like I had never seen that route before, and I think it got exposed from some heavy rain, and I almost lost it. Like I think my front tire hit it, and it's like I saw the ground coming at me, and for some way I held it and was able to keep. I think my front tire dug into some soft dirt, and I was able to hold it. But man, I was going downhill, so it was pretty fast, and that would have been a hard crash. But the acoustic bike just feels more sketchy, like after being on an e-bike, because of how planted this thing feels and how grippy the tires are with all that weight behind it and the center of gravity being low. So I don't like that, because I like feeling the acoustic bike. I just feel like I'm one with the bike after I've gotten really used to it. And I would say like the first entire ride when I got back on the acoustic bike, the day or two after riding the e-bike, like I didn't feel comfortable the entire ride. The second ride I did. So, you know, I would imagine switching back and forth between the bikes, I'm going to get more used to that. And I'll report when I talk about kind of my long-term experience of the e-bike, I'll report if that happened, because I know like after riding like gravel bikes and you know, longer travel trail bikes and shorter travel trail bikes, that you do get used to it, right? Your brain just compensates. So I think that's going to happen, but and the Transition Spur is not a steep angle bike. I mean, for a cross-country style bike, its 66-degree head angle is really stable, but man, that bike felt like it had a 72-degree head angle when I got back on it. But the good thing is I do feel like the e-bike helps me ride faster, like that skill. And I actually feel, once I got used to the acoustic bike, the transition spur, I did feel like I was able to hit things faster. Like your brain just thinks speed when you, after being on the e-bike, because I'm hitting stuff at 18 miles an hour that I used to hit at 9 miles an hour. I know I've mentioned this before, but you do have to be careful on cross-country trails, and if you can't see far around a corner, you really got to like slow down. In fact, I was doing that. Like, I was on the e-bike, I was pinning it, and then I got into a section where there was just a lot of foliage, and I said, I got to slow it down, because if someone comes around this corner, in fact, I was going as slow, or probably slower than my regular bike, because this bike just takes longer to stop. And sure enough, man, I came around a corner and there was a guy, and even going slow on this bike, he, you know, darted one way, I darted the other way, and we barely avoided each other. Had I been pinning it, head-on collision, no doubt. So, listen, e-bikes, like anything in life, right? It just takes being responsible, because you can go faster than you should on cross-country trails if you're not careful. So anyway, so that is my first month, or actually month and a half, of owning an e-bike. My experience, like I said, I'm taking this thing up to the mountains in a month, and I will report back on my experience riding it in the mountains for the first time. I think it's going to be really, really fun. And the reason I'm doing that is not to be lazy, but it's to get a ton of descending in one ride. Because when I go to the mountains, I love descending. So, as always, any questions or comments that you have, drop those below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, you can do so by clicking on the little logo right below. And love to have you be a part of this community where we talk about all things mountain biking and also gravel. Catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.